Guess what day it is? That's right, it is Whip Wednesday. Let's start with the whip that I've already shown in this series before. This is a cute little ruffled cabled sock. I'm taking a little bit of a break from this one. As you can see, I basically got to the point where I was almost done with this sock, but it took me until I got to this point where I was about to do the toe before I just couldn't deny it anymore. I tried it on and was like, this is way too tight. The reason for these fit issues is because I used a much smaller needle than I usually use for socks. I feel like with this white yarn, I just felt that it looked really holey and it didn't look very good with my usual gauge. So I went down to 00s instead of my usual size 1s, and that just made the gauge a lot tighter. I did have more stitches than usual on this sock, but it just wasn't enough. I have been a bit frustrated with this sock because I have started it over a couple of times, so I'm just going to take a little bit of a break from it, and that's why I'm working on some of these other projects. Project number 2 is funny because it basically looks like it's done. This is the Florence Polo. I have had this as a whip or like a hibernating whip for a very long time, but I got to a point where I ran out of yarn. I lost yarn chicken, which is pretty rare for me because I usually buy more yarn than I need, but I decided for this one, I didn't want to have extra yarn left over after I finished the project. I got to a point where I just had to do one more sleeve and I just ran out of yarn and then I gave up. Honestly, I didn't want to order more yarn. I just wanted to like frog some different parts of the top. I wanted to crop it a bit more even though it was bottom up, and I just knew it was going to be a little bit of a tough project. So I put it to the side, and it's been like a year or over a year at this point before I picked it back up. And I picked it back up the other night because I was like, this is something that I can do probably in like 5 hours, and like I have a few hours to work on this tonight. And I basically did finish it, but then I realized that the sleeve that I reknit has like a giant stripe on it because I did take some yarn from the bottom of the top, and so I basically need to reknit that sleeve once again. But you know, this is a project that if I work on it for one day, it is going to be done, so it's really close to being done. The last whip that I have is one that I started when I was extremely frustrated with my other pair of socks. It is just kind of a simple sock design using this slip stitch pattern, and this yarn is a yarn that I got a few years ago in Tahoe. I got it because it reminded me of the Lover album cover, which it still does. My problem with variegated sock yarn is that I'm always really drawn to it, but then I get it and I'm like, I need to find a pattern that is simple enough to show off this yarn. I also like having like a little bit of a pattern. Like I don't like just plain knit socks because I get bored, and I like to have something that will like break up the colors a little bit more. So this pattern, in my opinion, is perfect for that. I just turned the heel on this sock. I started it pretty recently, so this has been a faster knit for me and it's been really fun. These are also bottom up socks, which I don't normally do, but I liked how the stitch pattern looked a little bit more when it was bottom up. So I decided to go with what the pattern recommended, which is doing bottom up. That is it for my Whip Wednesday. I'll see you guys on a future Wednesday.